pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico and this is a symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures.
And today the invocation will be by our county manager, Mr. Davis.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful for the opportunity we have to gather as leaders and members of the community of Eddy County and the communities within the county. We pray, Father, for thy guidance and inspiration as this commission considers matters for the communities and the members of the community. Father, we pray for thy blessings to be upon those who defend and respond to emergencies within and outside of our country, that they would be under thy care and protection. We pray for the leaders of our nation and our state and our local governments, that they would have thy inspiration as they seek to do the right things for the right reasons, and develop the communities in a way that would be pleasing unto thee. We're grateful, Father, for the many blessings we enjoy, and we humbly offer this prayer in the name of our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 Kind of nice.
Use the back side. Do you need more than one foot?
All right.
Turn again.
We'll start with the
Thank you.
public comments and announcements. So for the timed agenda, any comments from the public? Sir?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name's Ken Harrington. I live on King Road in Happy Valley. Over the last 10, 11 years, I don't know how many times I've appeared here and begged, pleaded, I've presented petitions, and I think my last trip here I got right down to groveling. Apparently groveling works. You guys, Jason's people came out and did an absolutely fantastic job on my road. And all the trips I've made here trying to get something done on my road, I figured I might take just 1 minute and just thank everybody out there. The people were very professional. If I went out and asked them questions about what they were doing and what was going on, they were very, very helpful in giving me information. And just a great big thank you to Jason and his people. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harrington.
Larry.
Are there other public comments?
Good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning, Mr. Oweke.
My name is Franklin Wadeke, and I live at 7411 Dulce Road. And some of you have known me for quite a while, and some of you have known that I have a lot of problems where I'm at. I'm sandwiching between the big truckers on one side and the young fellow with a boombox on the other side. And so it's going to be a problem. And but anyway, I came this morning to look at this. On the next month, 10th, 11th of last month, I called in the sheriff department, and the first deputy was real nice and he understood my problem. The other deputy wasn't not so nice, and anyway, he got real kind of nasty there with me, and saying that accusing me that I was making false phone calls, and that I'm going to have to stop it. I have to stop it. And but he doesn't realize that every time that I call the law and they go out there, like I said, they're good. Some are good deputies and some are understanding. But this fella here, he don't understand that when I go out there and talk to him in front of these people here, I'm putting my life on line, especially with the truckers. there is so many people coming in and out of that place. It's pitiful. I don't know if they're good people or bad people, but they start drinking and loud music and this and that. I mean, I'm taking my life on the line right there to talk to the law officer in front of them, And of course, we have had problems with also with dogs, and I also have called the animal control, and a lot of people, they don't like that either, So am I welcome there in the neighborhood? Am I liked? There's people that they like to live outside the law, and they don't like for nobody to tell them, like my neighbor on the boombox, he don't like for nobody to tell him what to do or whatever. But that's beside the point. Like I have told him and told the deputies, as long as I don't hear the music at midnight and I'm trying to sleep, I mean, he can play it. But I'm not going to sit there and listen to that noise without having to call the law. After all, and I appreciate that we have good law officers, like I said, that will respond and they understand the problem I'm having. But this gentleman, he really laid it down on me, and I felt like telling him, just get out of here, with his bad attitude, And I thought that we should have that confidence, to call the law, whenever we feel that we're in danger, But anyway, thank you for your time, and I hope that we can do something about, the people next door to me with the truckers. I mean, there have been a lot of problems. Thank you, all of you, and have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank
Frank.
you.
And I would like to have that paper bag. Okay. Thank you.
Collecting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other public comments? Seeing none, we'll move to the trailing agenda. Item 1 is approve the commission meeting minutes for October 15, 2019.
Does anyone have any corrections or anything, any concerns? No? If not, we'll be looking for a motion to approve commission meeting minutes for October 15th, 2019.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Please call for the vote.
Wood,
Yes.
Crockett. Yes. McCutcheon.
Yes.
Henry.
Yes.
The next item is approval of the purchase card approval list for September 2019.
Anyone have any concerns or questions?
No.
Seeing none, we'll look for a motion to approve the purchase card approval list for September 2019.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Please call for the vote.
Wood,
Yes.
Crockett. Yes. McCutcheon.
Yes.
Henry.
Yes.
Next item on the list is the treasurer's report by Ms. Lori Pruitt.
Does anyone have any questions or anything?
I don't.
Any questions, concerns?
No.
Very good.
September revenue report. Ms. Roberta.
Good morning, Roberta.
For the September 2019 revenue report for gross receipts tax, the county collected almost $1.6 million for the month of September, which again were roughly $400,000 to $500,000 each month over our budgeted target amount. So right now we're about $1.2 million over budget. We'll probably be around $18 million by the end of the fiscal year for gross receipts tax, I assume. For oil and gas, for the month of September, we collected $1.8 million total for production and equipment. Again, our target monthly goal is about $1.5 million. So right now we're a little over $2 million over budget for oil and gas production. And I assume we'll probably be around the $30 million mark at the end of the year, if everything keeps going the way it's going. And now I'll stand for any questions.
Questions? Have none? Looks great.
And then budget versus actuals.
We need to approve this report.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the September 2019 revenue report.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Please call for the vote.
Wood,
Yes.
Crockett.
Yes.
McCutcheon,
Yes.
Henry.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, for the budget versus actual September 2019, and again, this follows the same line as the DFA quarterly report down in the resolution section. Again, the county should be at 25% for September. For budgeted revenues, the county as a whole, countywide, has collected about 42% of all of its revenue and has used about 29% of expenditures. For general fund for revenue, general fund is a little bit under budget, under the 25% mark. We're about 24% of revenue. But again, that will change come November, come the property taxes once they start coming in. And expenditures for general fund were about 40%. I don't know if you want to scroll up just a little bit more so they can see. It'll be at the second page. We're about 40%, but again, the biggest reason we're over budget on general fund is because of those transfers. And then also we paid the Brinewell payment of the $1.3 million. So those are two big reasons why general fund is over. Department by department though, general fund looks good. I think there's a couple departments that are slightly over, but it's because the budget adjustments that you're about to approve haven't been posted to the system. So once those do, all the rest of the departments will be fine. For road fund, they've collected about 87% of their revenue, but again, most of that is the transfer in from general fund. And for expenditures, they've only used about 11%, but I know, as you know, Jason's going to start ramping up expenditures once he gets his maintenance project back online. So other than that, I'll stand for any questions on budget versus actual.
Commissioner Wood, any questions? Don't have any. Okay. Look for a motion to approve the budget versus actual September 2019.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Please call for the vote.
Wood,
Yes.
Crockett.
Yes.
McCutcheon,
Yes.
Henry.
Yes.
The next is the IRS penalties. So you and Miss Jessica.
Yes.
Morning, Jessica.
Good morning. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, this is something obviously we didn't want to bring to you. What happened was for our 2017 W-2s and 1099s, the hard copies that went out to the employees and to all of our vendors, they did go out on time before January 31st. It's the electronic filing that did not go out. What we usually do, because the deadline has been later than January, we usually save those files in case there's any corrections before we actually submit those electronically. We were unaware that the due date had changed for the electronic portion of that, so they were not sent out in time. So therefore, we got notification back in July informing us that we had IRS penalties due because of that late filing. So we are bringing this to you for approval to pay that.
No, we have to pay it.
I've got into something kind of similar like this. Did they send any notice or anything? Did anything get changed and we just missed it? Just an oversight?
The notice that they technically send is in the packet, the 1099s, and it's
Okay.
one of those things, you get them every year. If you don't look at, the print on them to say the notification, had changed. And again, it's no excuse. They did notify us through the packet. It's just one of those things you do routinely every single year, and we didn't look at it. And but I did want to clarify that the hard copies did get sent out in time to all the employees and the vendors. It was just the electronic submittal that did not.
And in reading this, I saw where y'all had asked for them to reconsider and was denied on it.
We did. We sent an abatement letter out asking to abate the taxes. Cass helped us with that, but they did deny us on that. So we did try to reach out and ask for forgiveness. But
And I called the U.S. attorney friend of mine, asking him to intervene. He said, "Oh." He said, "Not with these guys."
Yeah, I don't see any other thing but to pay it, so.
Yeah, I don't think. one of those, we don't really have an option, so if anyone wants to fight it, good luck, but I don't.
Yeah, no.
All right, so we'll look for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve paying the IRS penalties in the amount of $23,000.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Please call for the vote.
Wood,
Yes.
Crockett,
Yes.
McCutcheon,
Yes.
Henry.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Next on the agenda is some shifting in the county organization based on past actions. Ms. Roxanne?
Morning, Roxanne.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, how are you this morning? Doing well, thank you. I am here to, once again, correct our allocation file to the way the process is working. Mr. Hooper has been given the position of the Community Service Administrative Services Director that will be sitting in the administrative department. Right now he sits in the Community Services Department. So we will need to move his allocated position up to the administrative position. And I have put the amount of what the difference will be because that money is allocated in the Community Services Director position. And it needs to go up into the 200, and that is what the difference will be in also moving him to that allocated position. I also wanted record and documentation of what the position, how it sits there. It's a director position, and then you guys will, if it becomes vacant, it goes back out for bid, that position goes back up because it may be another department head. So I wanted it for the allocation file, so if we all get hit with the bus tomorrow, the person coming in behind us knows how the process will work.
Right.
Questions?
No, makes perfect sense.
No questions.
No questions.
David.
And no questions? All right, we'll look for a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the community service director position. Is that the, or how do we word that, I guess? Moving the community services administrative services director to the county administration.
Yes, sir.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Please call for the vote.
Wood,
Yes.
Crockett.
Yes.
McCutcheon.
Yes.
Henry.
Yes.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Commissioner.
Roxanne.
Thank you. And then Ms. Carroll from the IT department has a request for an overhire.
Morning, Carol.
Good morning.
Morning.
I'd like to request an overhire of the Assistant IT Director to provide continuous management due to our retirement of an employee at the end of the year.
Did the approval for retirement get made or
No,
no?
we haven't done that. We voted against that.
That's what I was going to ask. I don't think we approved it, so.
Either. Huh. Never mind then.
All of a sudden the panels go boom.
Everything shuts down slowly.
Any questions?
I don't.
Sad to see her go. I guess we'll gotta do what we gotta do here, so.
I guess. Thank you.
I don't have it.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the IT Department Assistant IT Director overhire.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Please call for the vote.
Wood,
Yes.
Crockett.
Yes.
McCutcheon.
Yes.
Henry.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is reclassification of a position. Ms. Robinson.
We're going to move our bureau position to recording and filing, because that's where we need help. We're slammed. And our BPA student has not worked out as well. We thought it would. There's a waiting list. And we're on it, but I don't know when we'll get them.
Oh, there's a waiting list to get them?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And then they can choose us or not, depending on how much we pay. And
Wow.
Wow.
yeah. And we don't pay as well as some of the other, oil companies. So we're not getting, we haven't got any help since the budget. We need help. If you've been in my office, you know that there's nobody over there. There's nothing going on. We're full, so we need the help.
So who are you renting the parking spaces to there?
It's going to save you some money, a little bit, because it's classified differently, but.
Sounds good.
So that's it. You guys have any questions? It's just a reorganization to help us serve the public better.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the reclassification of a deputy clerk to a, I guess from an Bureau of Elections clerk to a deputy clerk 2 in the recording and filing department.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Please call for the vote.
Wood?
Yes.
Rocket?
Yes.
McCutcheon?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
And then, next item is set canvas for regular local elections. Ms. Robin and Ms. Darlene.
The law has changed. You used to do it right the next day. It's changed. We have to wait 6 days. Is that what they said? 6?
6 to 10.
We can't start for 6
before
days.
6.
And then we have to set the canvas, and you guys will be presented a report. Sign off on it. That'll be it. It'll be very short and very sweet. This election is going to be small, even though it's large. But it's not going to be a big deal, I don't think. So we have to set a date for you guys to approve it, because you are the canvassing board. You still are. It's just the law's changed a little bit. So
For what reason?
I don't.
How does that help?
Well, it helps us comply with the laws of like identification. You know, they have so long to get their IDs in if they haven't presented at the poll, or to comply with provisional voting, things like that. You know, when we do it the next day, it doesn't give the voter much time to present those things to us. And they, by law, have the right to do that. So they've moved that deadline up to adjust it, to accommodate them.
Either way, we would start it and we just presented it to you. You guys had to open it officially. Now you can just do it all in one fell swoop.
It's changed. We have 407. 407.
Long lasting.
That's a dirty word for us, but
What can happen in those days?
they can, if you had a provisional voter that could not present their ID, say they registered by mail, and they were a first-time voter, they have to present an ID, a certain type. Well, if they can't do that at the polls, they have to vote provisionally. So they have such a period of time to present that in order for it to be counted. So they could bring in their ID to us. It's never happened. We've never had anybody that presented it after the polls were closed. But it's the law, so that's what we do. And we have to accommodate that with the canvas. And they've changed the law, now we have to. Before we didn't. You know, we kind of fudged on the small elections, is what we did. I mean, never in 32 years have I had somebody come and bring me their ID. But either way, it's the law, so that's what we'll do.
Mr. Chairman, I am not available the 12th or the 14th. I'm only available on the 13th.
Whatever you guys want to do. We have to do it within 10 days, though.
Which
Let's start for 6.
I don't need to be here, but if we're trying to get
3.
3.
Mm-hmm. And don't forget to vote today. Everybody go vote.
And I'm here for Lodger's tax on the 12th, and then 13th, 14th's open, so whatever.
I'm good on either day, 13 or 14, either one.
If you're here the 12th, you're not here the 13th. You can't be here the 12th. You can be here the 12th, though, guys. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good anytime.
Yeah, I'd be here on the 12th.
Okay.
Can we make it later in the day?
Sure. Do it anytime you want.
Yeah, if you do it later in the day, I can be here.
Because on the 12th, we're here for a 2 o'clock Lodger's tax. I mean,
Anytime.
Did it 1?
yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, 1 o'clock's fine.
Yeah, ironically, I'm going to be in Artesia at 8 a.m. on the 12th, so.
Yeah.
But I'll be back after
By 1?
lunch. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I love the trip to Carlsbad, but I'd like to make one a day.
Yeah.
Beautiful trip.
Bang for your buck.
Yeah, so we're shooting for November 12th at 1?
That's fine. That'll work. Yep. Perfect. The motion. We're gonna,
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we set the canvas for the regular local election. And we will meet on the 12th, November 12th at 1 p.m.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
A motion second, please call for the vote.
Wood,
Yes.
Crockett.
Yes.
McCutcheon.
Yes.
Henry.
Yes.
Morning, Sheriff.
Good morning,
Morning.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Since I've assigned Bobby to go and be the acting HIDA director for a little bit longer, we have our new HIDA director coming in, so he'll be back here soon, hopefully. I'm standing in for him. This is a server that went down. Bobby hadn't planned on it. Obviously, we can't predict that stuff. This has been approved by the HIDA Executive Board and by the Region 6 Executive Board and by the Pecos Valley Drug Task Force Executive Board, but I guess you guys have to approve it also, so that's what this is for. It has no financial impact to the county at all.
Any questions?
It's just moving money
Housekeeping
around.
issue.
Look for a motion to approve. It's got to be really long, doesn't it? G19SN0017A Region 5 Drug Task Force Admin Budget Adjustment.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Please call for the vote.
Wood,
Yes.
Crockett.
Yes.
McCutcheon.
Yes.
Henry.
Yes.
Thank y'all.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Ernie wouldn't have made it that long.
No, he would have just said so moved.
Yeah, exactly. So moved. All right, which way are we going, Ernie?
I make a motion to pass that.
Next item on the agenda is indigent burials. Ms. Veronica?
Good morning.
Is that Peppy?
I'm just needing approval for 2 indigent burials.
Didn't we say we were gonna have a lot of questions?
Yeah.
Nobody had any? Oh, man.
2 this time.
All right. We have no questions. Look for a motion.
I make a motion we approve the 2 indigent burials.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Please call for the vote.
Wood,
Yes.
Crockett.
Yes.
McCutcheon.
Yes.
Henry.
Yes.
Thank
Thank
you.
A tough one.
Next item on the agenda is medical direction from Fire Services. Mr. Mack.
Morning, Josh.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. All we're needing is a signature from the Commissioners that approve of this 60% project. Is what we're doing is we're changing our medical director to match up with the City of Artesia, Carlsbad, Trans-Arrow, and WIP. So which will help us hold all of our DA drug licenses, et cetera, more accountable.
We have
Questions?
we have the page for signature, so, but it is just in alignment with.
Yeah, we're just coming into alignment with everybody else. Our current medical director will have more checks and balances than we currently have, so it'll be a good thing for us.
Any questions?
I don't have any.
No, sir.
Questions?
And just so this out there, it's coming out of the fire excise 60%. It's $1,250 a month.
All right, we'll look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the, how we doing this?
Medical direction.
MSRF. Change of medical direction.
Medical direction for the fire services.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Please call for the vote.
Wood,
Yes.
Crockett.
Yes.
McCutcheon.
Yes.
Henry.
Yes.
If you'll just sign this real quick while you're here. the next line down.
There's the commissioner right there. 3, 4, 5.
Do I need to attest, is that what you're asking?
They don't have a place for your.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Look like.
The next item is purchase of combi tools for fire services. Mr. Mack.
Commissioners, we were given a $25,000 donation from Devon. We're looking to expend $17,774 on combi tools for our command vehicles. And those are capital items, so that's why we have to come before you.
So you're going to use the...
Yeah, it's the donation money, so it's all budgeted in essence.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we'd had the discussion one between electric and hydraulic, not that it matters. But these will be the smaller electric ones that go in the trucks.
Yeah, these
They're
are,
a lot better to work with and stuff.
yeah, they're all battery powered, so it just enhances our capabilities if we beat a department there.
So you don't have a power unit, you don't need a power unit on a truck or anything, you can just take these and go.
Yes, sir.
Good deal.
Questions? I have none.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the purchase of the 2 combi tools with the monies obtained through a $25,000 donation from Devon Energy.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Please call for the vote.
Wood,
Yes.
Crockett.
Yes.
Cutchin,
Yes.
Henry.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners.
I've got one thing kind of pertaining to this. Is there, how do we let the community know that Devon's done this? What's our plan forward with that?
So we're gonna we'll get with Jerry and get a press release out. We did take the banner that they gave us and we hung it in the hallway right there where everybody comes in for the classes.
Okay.
So hopefully that way all the other companies see what they did for us.
I see what you're doing.
I
I
didn't see
think
it.
that's good. We just need to make sure we give credit where it's, get it out and let everybody know we appreciate those guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Josh. Next item on the agenda is determination on proceeding litigation in the Taxation and Revenue Department. Mr. Cass.
We've spoken in the past about the suit that's going on that nearly every city and county in the state has filed against the Taxation and Revenue Department for gross receipts monies that are taken. The suit alleges. She's wanting me to open her candy, so I opened her candy and gave it to her.
Right there on the microphone and everything.
And the attorneys that are involved in this particular law firm represents probably 15 or 16 of them. They've filed an amended complaint. I think they were filing last week or the first of this week, and joined the county also in that because we had indicated we have $1.8 million that was taken without our knowledge over a 4-year period up to 2017. And these are refunds that the Taxation and Revenue Department determines that are owed to some of the taxpayers that paid gross receipts tax, but they don't bother to tell the county. They just take it out of our gross receipts tax and give it to them. And there were some rules governing that you could not go back beyond a year and reimburse somebody. Well, they were going back beyond a year, go 2 years, 3. So then they changed the law to 3 years. And this suit, right now, it's my understanding that Taxation and Revenue is also talking with these attorneys trying to resolve this before it gets a whole lot further. And in order to join in this litigation, we also need to contract with these attorneys to represent us in that suit. And it's a contingent fee, so it's coming out any proceeds that we win or settle for. And as I said, they're representing probably another 15 or more local government, municipalities and counties. And so I'd like to get the approval so we can move these guys forward and include the county in that suit against Taxation and Revenue Department. Please.
Questions?
No. I'm groveling.
Questions, Commissioner?
I don't have any.
No questions. Do we have a motion?
Not all at once.
I will make the motion that we proceed with litigation against the Taxation and Revenue Department and subsequent potential approval of contract with attorneys for handling of the litigation on behalf of Eddy County.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, please call for the vote.
Wood,
Yes.
Crockett.
Yes.
McCutcheon,
Yes.
Henry.
Yes.
Right. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is resolution and agreement of the consent agenda.
Anyone have anything they want to pull? All right, seeing none, we'll look for a motion to approve resolution and agreement consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Please call for the vote.
Wood,
Yes.
Crockett.
Yes.
McCutcheon,
Yes.
Henry.
Yes.
Outstanding. Next item on the agenda are the department updates, and we'll begin with Mr. Burns from Public Works.
We all know your number one isn't here, so you don't have to put on quite the show.
Right one.
Dang it. Can't even get in the chair.
Susan.
Ow.
Commissioner Crockett, thank you.
Yeah, a little rough this morning.
No kidding.
Everybody wanted to say it, but I'm the only one that did.
I don't know if I have a good response to that. That's,
You should just
Be real quick.
Morning,
put your
Jason.
shovel down,
Be quick is what.
put your shovel down and just proceed.
the chairman, commissioners. I've provided you with our updates for the schedule, or for the Public Works. Would you like me to go through these individually? Would y'all just like me to stand for questions, anything that we got?
Individuals, y'all got questions?
I'll just bounce through a couple of these real quick. North Department's on 235 still doing the resurfacing. They're doing a really good job. That one's starting to look really good. Our South Department's on Rawhide. They're doing the shoulders, pulling on that one. We're going to go to U.S. Refinery and Fisherman's Lane after those. You can see we still have a long list of to-dos, and we're coming up with the assessment that's going to really put together a really good maintenance plan. If you go to the projects, we did have the assessment and update last week. They're about 60% done with the assessment. Hopefully here in the next couple of weeks they'll be able to start compiling the data and really analyzing it. North 26 will be coring it tomorrow. We're going to send out our newly hired construction inspector to work traffic control for them while they core that and see if we have base course problems or subgrade problems. Old Cavern was repaired on the 21st, and then they're looking at doing the intersection on this week and having that done. They finished Muscatel. They're supposed to finish that one by Thursday. So on Surface Road, they're currently chip sealing right now. We got back above. We postponed it last week due to the cold snap of weather. We're going to hope to get that right under the deal and with the weather and get that one completed this week. The landfill. The one thing I'd like to report at the landfill is we are now accepting tires at the convenience stations, and we're working at getting designated areas for those to be taken in. So, the one thing I would also like to show and report is we requested to have our opportunity reporter on our website, so we've been doing a little bit of updating to the Public Works website, and you can see off to the right-hand side we have those now posted. And if you click on one of them, it'll bring up the actual reporter, and it'll scroll through them. Kind of go to the next page, then just scroll down. You can see that the items that we've completed, we've highlighted in green. The ones that we're still looking into or have on our schedule to be completed are not highlighted. So that's kind of our complete the loop that we were requested to post.
That's a great feedback loop.
So that will be continued to be updated every bi-weekly on the County Public Works website. So, and with that, I will, questions, concerns?
So you've got Dark Canyon Road set for October the 14th?
Yes, sir.
Is that right? Was that completed on the schedule?
They are actually going to that one right now. As soon as they finish on the south, they're going to be going to Old Cavern Road. I think they might actually be there right now if they finished Rawhide.
Okay.
So they're going to be on that one.
Okay, that's you know, we know it's a real heavily traveled road there. I've got a few calls on it, though. It's in Commissioner Woods District. I know a few people over there, and they've reached out and concerned of that road, and we know that the quarry there is really tough on that road. So I don't know if there's some conversations we need to have with them or something, and maybe have them donate material, things like that, that we can go in there and work on that road with. So something like that, I'd say they're
I know there are a few rough spots going through there that are FEMA projects.
Oh, really?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
On Dark Canyon Road, I think they're a little past square, but I know there's one in front of it too.
Okay.
So we're going to be incorporating those, but we are going to Dark Canyon here right after they finish. Where are they at on? So yeah, we need to look at that one because they show that one is completed on 31st. Okay. But we probably need to go up that one a little more with the shoulders. So I know they've been out there and they are working on that one.
Okay, good deal. Yeah, that whole road just keeps getting narrow, and also comes around to Doggo there. And,
yes, sir.
We know that, but looks good. Thank you.
Anything else from anyone?
Thank you, Jason. I'm not your number one.
I've got two quick ones. I know since you've been taking the tires, I've already been getting quite a few calls from farmers, just super excited. So I really appreciate you getting that figured out. So are we good to announce that? I mean, if somebody brings a tire to any convenience station,
we're going to have designated areas at all the locations.
Okay.
That we will start accepting them. And if they take them out to the landfill, the only deal is if they bring out there a certain number, we'll have them fill out a chain of custody as required by NMED. But it's a quick one-page form that we will help them fill out on site, and we'll take what they have. The only thing we're trying to avoid is commercial tires bringing, just like Forest Tire or Elite or any of the commercial tires. We probably will still, just like we do at the landfill for tipping fees with commercial vendors, we'll probably still charge them as commercial companies, but farmers, ranchers, anything that's private, citizens of the county, we're changing the mindset that we will take those in. So.
And then the second one, I mean, it seems like a lot of praise to you, even though I don't know where I am. So you got one, she's one now, so I got like 5, but that's okay.
He's just the chair.
I keep giving you compliments, but you know, whatever. We're not worried about that. No, again, like we heard today from this gentleman, I mean, I'm getting stopped on a regular basis to say thanks for all the hard work your department's doing. So I really appreciate it. It's making it a lot easier in our district to walk around. So keep up the good work. I sure appreciate it. You had one more?
You've hired a new inspector.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us a little bit about him or her, and are we doing that coring up there in-house, or are they just inspecting that?
So we've actually offered positions to both inspectors, north and south. Our gentleman that's going to be designated our south inspector is starting. He's actually inspecting our projects here in the north, though, with Service at Muscatel. The coring is not being done in-house, as we've hired a engineering firm, and Smith Engineering, to provide us a road section and a design and alignment for North 26th. And so what they're doing is they're going to be conducting the coring to provide us that adequate section to check and see if the subgrade is failing under it. The inspector is going to be overseeing the coring as well as providing more or less traffic control for them. And like I said, we're going to have them doing a variety of tasks. We've got them overseeing Muscatel and on service right now. And then our gentleman we hired for the officer position too for the north, he's going to be starting December 2nd as he's coming from Washington and moving back to the area. His name's Hazer Archer. He's from Artesia originally. So we're going to be bringing him back to the area. And we're excited to have him. So.
Good deal, thank you.
Anything else? Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you, Jason.
Next is Fire Services, Mr. Mack.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, the two updates I have, the first one's Loving. We're still trying to get that meeting scheduled. There's been some issues with doctor's appointments, et cetera. Hoping to get that done before the end of the year. But as soon as I get more information, I'll bring it back to y'all. Now the hot topic is the communication towers. We had a meeting out of my office last week, and I want to thank the county manager for all his effort towards this project as well. We were actually able to bring the city of Artesia, city of Carlsbad, and county chiefs all together, the sheriff's office and myself, to discuss this project. It was a really healthy discussion. I know years ago it was tried to have one system, and it kind of fell through. I feel like we have the right people in the right places now, so that is our objective. That's the end goal that we're looking at, is maximize the system so that we have this one-time expense for everyone. My objective is to be a good neighbor, and since I'm making everybody do a lot of change for this new system, we're trying to figure out how we can foot the bill. We're looking at donations. We want to essentially cover everything to kind of intrigue these parties to see it as a benefit to them to come to this one system. Right now, our biggest issue is the two dispatch centers. Obviously, we have Rita and we have Carlsbad. So if we're going to maintain both of them, we would have to upgrade Carlsbad's dispatch center to be in line with Rita. The other big expense is going to be radios, because it is a 7-800 system. We would have to replace essentially all the radios in the county and the cities. Right now I have a quote in that was $4.9 million I just received this morning, just in radios. I just want to remind everyone that these radios are capable of doing VHF 7-800. We have different options of how we can do that, VHF, analog, etc. So we would be able to essentially communicate with anybody and everybody throughout the state, the country, etc., which is required of us by FEMA to be able to be interoperable. It's just that perfect time of the year where they're wanting to get in any cash that they can at the end of the year. So they're going to be sending me a new quote because they wanted to know what the probability was of me buying them before the end of the year. So I said, if the price is right, we could look into that. So if we can save any money, we're trying to save money. We're looking at phasing this project out. The first phase would obviously be our infrastructure, which is what we currently have at our tower sites. We do need to do some stuff with the guide wires and the tower and cabling, stuff that could be immediate risks for the county because it is our property. So if a tower fell over, that would definitely not be a good thing, plus the expense to reconstruct it. So we're looking at that. That project's about $1 million. Right now, we're currently having our hearing for our possible donation of $1 million. So I'm hoping we can get that to cover that expense. Phase 2 would be getting the radios in because they'll work with our current system. And then phase 3, because we are tying into the state's system, my plan is with phase 3, we plan that for start of next fiscal year because the state will be approving their money with legislation. So if we can work hand in hand, side by side with the state, hopefully, instead of them having to spend $10 or $12 million down here, we can just get them to give us a couple of $1 million towards our portion of the project for the actual guts inside the towers. So we're looking at all the cost savings possible. Right now we have the initial budget of the $4.9 million. We're looking at probably having to spend $9 million, but by going to this and having these, I'm sorry, Mr. County Manager, what are those contracts, ESUs? I don't know. Those contracts that we have that keep it upgraded all the time.
Evergreen. So the use agreements
Yeah.
with the state.
So the state's going to lease our towers, so they're going to be paying us until they're caught up in expenses. So essentially, for the money we spend, we're going to get the money back. And then we have contracts in place for maintenance for in the future. So that's the other big thing that we're trying to hit here is in 10 years or 5 years, we're not having to come back and say, okay, we have another $9 million project. Essentially, we're paying, I believe it's $83,000 a year, and that's going into always maintaining the system. So I think in the long run, it's going to be a way better deal than what we're currently in. If we just do this $4.9 million upgrade, I'm going to be the first one, and the sheriff will probably back me to say we're going to be back because we're going to need more towers. We're going to need to upgrade the system again. We're going to have radio expense again. I mean, it's just, it's like a cell phone. You know, you go buy the latest and greatest today, and next week the new one's out for another $1,500. So that's kind of where we stand on the radio project. If any of you guys have any questions, please call me. Myself and the county manager are going to be trying to get meetings with Artesia and Carlsbad's mayors to discuss some options with them. And again, like I said, I'm just trying to do everything in my power to make it worth the biggest bang for everybody's buck. So, and try to spend our tax dollars on something that in the future we're not going to have to spend again, and help the taxpayers out in that aspect.
So based on the commission's previous direction, Josh did a great job in getting Artesia PD, Artesia Fire Department, Rita, Sheriff's Office, and Chief Skinner from Carlsbad PD there, and it was a very productive meeting, very open discussion. It started a little squidgy with some rock throwing and whatnot. The state was there, Motorola was there, but we got it back on track and really had a good discussion. And it was, we were talking about the capabilities and the desire to be at a certain level. And Chief Skinner interjected that his desire was to be at that same level. The system that he has now doesn't feel meets the needs for the city of Carlsbad. And city of Artesia, their concerns were with the city funds how to pay for the radios. And so there's a lot of collective, collaborative discussion that went on and looking at alternatives that could be accomplished to get a unified communication system. I think one of the most poignant comments of that meeting was sort of as the meeting was winding down, I think it was Chief Skinner who said, you know, we have all of these interdepartment interactive efforts between the cities and the county already, but the one that should have been first and is most important is communications, and that's the last to be accomplished. And so it really is an opportunity to strike that balance. We have the opportunity technologically to combine Rita and Carlsbad dispatch without changing anything physically. And then if and when the time is right, then that opportunity is available to put them under one roof. But today you don't have to. They can work in their current locations and technologically be on the same platform and have one common system of communications across all of the entities that are in there across the whole county. The state provides an opportunity to increase the area of coverage already that we need in the county, and we get credit for the resources that we bring to the table in that situation. So I think we made some real positive steps forward. Still some things to iron out, still some things we need to get across the line with the mayors and the state and the agreements and things like that. But I think we're in a much better place to be able to define what's needed and the associated costs and where those monies will come from. So more steps to go, but we're on the right path and moving in a reasonable pace. So good effort.
May I interject something?
Certainly.
One of the problems that we're going to have, that we collectively, whatever,
gonna have with this, with the city of Carlsbad is, they watched how we lost control of our dispatch. They're gonna always be hesitant. And frankly, I know that Chief Skinner is Shane and I talk regularly. He's on board to a certain extent. He doesn't want to lose control of his dispatch. We got kicked off of our reader board. All the first responders got kicked off of it. We have no control over what goes on at Rita. We have no say-so in what goes on at Rita. Nothing. Now Bambi tries to accommodate us as best she can, but still, we have zero control as the agency heads and elected officials. And that's concerning. That's always been concerning. And Carlsbad was scared of that in the beginning. That's why they didn't get into it. And that's going to be the challenge moving forward. If we wanted to combine everything, Chief Skinner and then of course people above him have control because that dispatch center works for him. They're his employees. So I just wanted to point that out. We still have zero control. We have zero input on what goes on.
So perhaps that's not directly true. I mean, Commissioner Henry and I both sit on the executive board, so we're 2 of 5 on there. We're not, we don't have the quorum, but I do think we have an opportunity for input, and I think the current chair, Mayor Miller, I think he's amenable to opportunity as long as the resources and funds to pay for it are there. Fiscally, he's exceptionally responsible. Is that the right way to say that? Anyway, so I do think there's opportunity. There certainly are concerns. Rita had concerns about the state and others, but I think the opportunity is now if we're going to do something that's unified and gets us into the current level of technology with an opportunity to sustain that technology level going forward.
I guess, excuse me, I guess the point I was making was in order to change some of the tech to give them a different flavor of it, we're going to have to change some of the stuff that goes on our reader board.
Yeah.
Because the executive board, because a retired football coach, which I love him, he's a great winning coach, was voted in by that board over a first responder to be on that board. I'm kind of confused as to why a football coach would be on, a high school football coach would be on our reader board. It just makes no sense to me. So, those are concerns. And I'm throwing this just out there, just food for thoughts. If we want to move forward with this in a comprehensive way, in a way where we're going to bring these other people in, there's going to have to be an organizational change. And I'm not saying that you two represent us great, and I appreciate that. I guess I did mischaracterize that as we had zero representation, but there are no first responders on that board, and that's unheard of. Nationwide, that's unheard of. This is really an anomaly, and it's a concern. So I'll shut up.
We have opportunities we can address.
We have opportunities.
Yes, sir. Any other questions for Mr. Mack? Thanks, Josh.
Yes, thank you.
On the agenda, we've added item C here, and I'll talk a little bit about it in my comments later, but are there any other department heads or any other county elected officials? Come on up, sir.
Morning, Brian.
How are you?
First thing I saw this morning. I said, I'll go out there. I got lots to update with.
There you go.
So I appreciate that. Chairman Henry, commissioners, a lot of stuff going on in this new fiscal year with your facilities, with my department in general. About August 1st, around then, all of our PM preventive maintenance tasks that were developed by the company that came and did our facility condition assessments were loaded into our work order system, and they started spitting out on August 1st. overwhelmed my staff, completely overwhelmed. The very first month it spit out 200 work orders right on August 1st. And so I let that soak for a few months, and we've gone in and cleaned that stuff up, and some of that came from detention center, for example. We have 60 separate exhaust fans, just exhaust fans. And so when that work order came up, it kicked out 60 work orders, one for each exhaust fan. And so I went and pushed some buttons and made it where it'll one work order for 60, but still, you can imagine. So those are things my team's working through right now. New manager's doing a good job. Me and him and the custodian supervisor we got at the beginning of the calendar year, we'll start aligning all of our efforts and doing more facility inspections as we go through the remainder of this calendar year and get a better process now that we got the right people tools to oversee and then follow up with, you know, did this really get done, did it not? Oversee the work of vendors, so on and so forth. So I appreciate those things you've allowed me to do this far. Projects, everything seems to be aligning correctly. Kicked off with the big street shutdown last week. We got a brand new unit sitting on top of Alpha. Just on the back side of that, Honeywell showed up for the first time. And we started our preventive maintenance on the detention center. Real eye-opener there as well. Right there we have trained professionals that do HVAC maintenance every single day, you know, going back for their careers. And so swapping that in where we used to just have maintenance generalists that, you know, they do plumbing, they do heating, they do cooling, they do whatever they need to do. Now we got very specific people that know how to do that. We're finding a lot of pulleys that were incorrect sizes on a lot of our HVAC units, and so we're moving not enough air, maybe moving too much air, not being as efficient as we could. So we found a lot of eye openers there. That was a really great thing we did. Going forward, still working through some bugs on the detention center as far as that goes, but we'll skip over to the courthouse. The 3 remaining big air handler units for the roof should be in Carlsbad Thanksgiving week. I believe we'll get them craned up and set in the backyard behind at the maintenance shop. There'll be some work that has to be done on those units while they're on the ground before they get picked up, and then we'll work with Judge Gray for the appropriate time where we can get those things lifted onto the courthouse. Roofing will follow after that, where we just rejuvenate the existing roof system with a coating, any repairs that need to be made, and that'll happen February and March. And so those are my big things that I wanted to update everybody on, but we're working through quite a bit. There are some things that I'm being made aware of over the last few months that are real eye-openers, real aggravating for me. I'll get all that stuff kind of in a list and quantified, try to develop some options to go forward and see how we're going to tackle those and make our buildings better. So I'll stand for any questions.
I would like to set something up maybe with you and the warden to go through and kind of look at the jail and see we've got the strong points and the weak points of the jail and the maintenance that's required there. Sometime if you guys could set that up, I'm more.
Anytime, I'm flexible. Your schedule's less flexible than mine, so.
Just, okay, you guys just kind of line it up and shoot me a text or something. I'd like to go through and kind of, I think the jail needs probably needs a little attention. I need some more information on it, in the upcoming years. I'd kind of like to be thinking about.
Absolutely.
About gathering information on that so we can make good decisions going forward.
We'll probably do an inspection here pretty quick anyways, aren't we?
Yeah, we have to do it by the end of the year.
Schedule it for
what's an inspection?
First meeting in
Commissioners
December.
have to tour.
Twice a year.
Oh, really?
We have to eat the food.
First meeting in December, we're going.
Oh, okay.
First meeting in December, we're going, we'll break for an hour, and we'll go to the detention center for.
Okay, I didn't know we did that, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and lunch, you gotta eat lunch.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know that we decided we didn't necessarily have to eat lunch, but if.
Good.
And I was going to follow behind Brian and say thank you for the work that he did, and his team was kind of brisk morning, and just fell all together. So appreciate what he did and what his team's doing, and the attention we're getting. My next agenda, a portion of that was to tour, and then the way I read statute is that we have to come in and come through. There's no obligation to eat anything or do any that kind of stuff. I think that was just every once in a while have some of the community say, hey, the food's bad or this doesn't taste well. I normally tell the inmates that dietitian approved. We go through the caloric intake. It's not mama's cooking, but you're going to be okay. So kind of deal with it that way.
We don't really want you here, so we don't have to. We don't want you to be here. I mean, we want you to have to want to come back.
Star, they might.
Yeah, I mean.
White paper cloth. Commissioner, we have a question for them? All right. Thank you so much.
And then my last thing was actually working through local PD, Mr. Skinner and them. Their Citizen Police Academy is actually going to come in Thursday and we'll get them a tour.
Nice.
I think there's about 15 to 20.
Okay.
For that. It's unique. I mean, Brian kind of had this. It's unique, even though there's the detention facility there, but they don't understand the structure and some of the things that go with it. The city, on their side of things, not a lot to worry about because they just send the MHO and the county deals with everything else, infrastructures and those things.
Except that it's in the middle of the city, but other than that. So the other thing, kind of along the same lines that the warden's been working with and Mr. Tabor and I are engaged with is there's an entity that's interested in county's ASU program, and they would like to come and visit and talk and do a little filming. We're trying to pare that down to where it's at the appropriate place, the appropriate time, and the appropriate context so as to not overexpose us from a liability standpoint or individuals involved. But I think it would be a good opportunity, provided we have the right controls, to share the program that the warden and the county have in place around alternative sentencing. There's a lot of interest in it, and I think the county has a good program, so we're working to see how we might showcase that in the appropriate light in the next few weeks, I think is what we're looking. So,
Maybe contact with them and just trying to work out hopefully the final details. So it's unique that they picked New Mexico, and it's unique that they picked us. And it's just because of the services, though there's a statute that says any county can implement it or start a program, we've been there a long time before many other ones. So not only do you have pre-sentenced supervision, you also have post-sentence supervision. And it's just geared at trying to see what you can do to keep individuals out of your detention facilities or out of DOC. So
it's a great program and a great story to tell, and we'd like the opportunity to tell it. So we're working on it.
Great.
Anything else?
Oh, thank you.
So in this slide, are there any other county elected officials or department heads that want to share anything at this time?
I'm assuming you designed this so it could be interactive?
Yes, sir.
Good. I hate coming up here and giving an update, not being able to have any back and forth on it. Let me make sure I have my list here. First and foremost, in talking with the White House, they're very, very happy and thankful that we passed that resolution on the USMCA. And moving forward, I have another request, and we have our NMC Executive Board meeting day after tomorrow, and then the full board meeting the next day. And we're going to talk about the White House is requesting that if possible, we can do a full support letter from
all the counties that passed the resolution. Similar to what we did with the, I believe that we did it with the Second Amendment sanctuary, where I signed it and the board chair signs it. So that's what I'm going to propose at the board meeting, and I'm hoping that this commission is agreeable to that. Since we did the letter, I'm assuming we're going to move forward with echoing our support, because they're fixing to do a big push on it to help get it moving and get it approved and out there. So I've been in contact with him. He asked me if I would please spearhead that for the state, and I figured if I'm going to spearhead it for the state, I probably ought to have us at the tip of the spear. So barring any objections to that, I figure we'll move forward with that. As far as hiring goes with us, we're moving along. We've got, I think, about 4 certifieds on the hook right now. And they're moving very quickly. So we're gonna be getting some more people on board, and then the next thing is, and I'm working with our county manager, and I'm going to be bringing a proposal. We need to keep what we have. I mean, we're getting people. We just need to be careful. We don't want to lose them, and we're getting filled up. So the good point of getting filled up like we are, I've finally been able to reassign some people in anticipation of some hiring. I've had some concerns with violent crime in our area. I've been concerned about it. We've had a little bit of a rise. We also have some push from the state where they would like to come in and solve our violent crime problem for us. I'm not in favor of that. I'm in favor of us handling our violent crime problem ourselves. When we start having people come in from outside who are not familiar with our community, law enforcement, task forces, and officers, it concerns me and it worries me that it could impact some of our existing operations, because we have a lot going on here with our federal partners and our local partners. And so I want to be proactive instead of waiting for Big Brother to come help us out. And so what I have done is, within my CAT, my community action team, I've assigned 2 more deputies to that. One is a detective, one is a patrol deputy. And we basically have another team within that team, because the CAT has been out there doing traffic, obviously. That's what we have to have. They're out there saving lives on the highways. Well, what I needed was, I needed some people who could be dedicated. If we have a violent crime occur, I want them to go out and attack it now. Before, instead of mobilizing, our detectives, instead of doing this, they can be there right away, and that's what they do. They answer directly to the chief, who obviously answers directly to me. And so therefore we have that kind of a little team that we can send out immediately. And they're having a huge impact already. As a matter of fact, there was a warrant list that was requested by the governor's office for these teams that were supposed to come out and help us. That list was provided to me by the DA prior, as it went, because she said, as a courtesy, I think you ought to know, these violent offenders who are running around our community. It's clear. That list is clear now. There's only 2 of them. They're in different jurisdictions. That 2 that are outstanding, and they're in different jurisdictions, and we've notified the jurisdictions, hey, you might want to go pick these folks up. We arrested a few of them. We found out that some of the warrants weren't even valid anymore. They weren't even good warrants, and one person was medically unable to be served. So that's what we're doing, and we're going to keep moving forward with it. I'll be bringing an MOU before you for approval. I'm going to sign it. I'm hoping you'll sign it from ATF. We're going to enter into a formal partnership with ATF and hopefully have a full-time task force officer. And that task, because what ATF is doing is, in the past, they've gotten convoluted. If you know all those three-letter agencies, FBI, all, DEA, they all started commingling. Well, DEA is supposed to handle drugs. ATF is supposed to handle tobacco and firearms, and their main focus is generally violent crime. They're getting back to that focus. So they're moving away from the drug enforcement part and letting drug enforcement DEA handle that, and people like our task force. So what we're doing is he's coming. The resident agent in charge came and visited with me and said, "Here's what I want to do, and I want you to get on board with it." And I said, "You're darn right I will. Violent crime is my problem, and it's immediately impacting our community." So that's what we're going to do. We're looking at entering into this memorandum of understanding with them, where we have access to the full resources of ATF under my. It's going to be under. They won't do anything without my say-so. So that's what we're looking at. We're looking at and possibly even embedding an ATF agent at my agency, where we have that resource full-time that will be working within my CAT, which is the subdivision, is the HIT team, the high-impact team. So we've got a lot going on with that. I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be a big benefit to our community, because we do have some folks out there. Now, we do a good job of getting them run to ground. We work with our local partners, with the municipalities, but we need something that's focused. And I think with the increase in population here, we've seen an increase in crime, nothing alarming, but we've seen a little bit of an increase. We want to stay proactive, stay ahead of it, instead of being a reactive force. So I just wanted to give you that update. That MOU I'll be bringing it up to you and showing and talking to you about it, and that's basically what it is we're just saying we're going to work with these guys, they're going to work with us, and we have severability. We can get out of it if we want to. If I don't like something going on, I shut it down. So, and hopefully you can get behind that. As far as HIDA goes, I wanted to give you a quick update on that. Like I said, Bobby Sullivan is acting director right now, because we had our director leave abruptly, and then so did our deputy director. We took care of the personnel issues there, and it's fixed. We have a new director hired. It's Will Glaspie. He's a special agent in charge, which, if you're not familiar with the terminology, SACs are like the big dogs, big bosses, and he's what they call a super SAC, because he went from, I know him from El Paso, he went to Houston, which has like 3 different offices within it. So Will's the man. He's a really, really good leader, a good manager, and he's going to be taking over as the HIDA director. Bobby Sullivan will stay on loan as the acting assistant director for about a month, until Will gets his feet on the ground and gets his assistant director hired. And I've already told Bobby he's not allowed to accept the job. So with that being said, we're moving along with HIDA. We're hoping we're going to get some more funding, and if so, I'm going to grab as much as I can for us. We're waiting. The strike is apparently over with Chevy, so maybe my Tahoes that you've graciously approved on the Capitol will get, they'll start working on them here pretty quickly, because we kind of need them now that we're actually hiring people. And then another one just cool to know thing that I wanted to give you an update on is there's a movie that is being made. Some friends of mine that I went to high school with in Portales, then they live in Artesia now, and their daughter was killed by a drunk driver, and it was in Plainview where she was killed. But they're apparently, and it was years ago, they've been very active in the anti-DWI campaigns, and a movie company has picked up the story, and so they're wanting to film here, part of it here. I took them in and showed them our courthouse. because they wanted a traditional courtroom for the movie, and so they love it. And they think it's a great venue to do some of the filming. They're going to do a lot of the filming here in Eddy County, in Artesia, and in Carlsbad, and in between. So it's going to be a really, I mean, it's first off, it's a really good thing because getting the story out there is going to help. It's going to help hopefully curb some DWIs, but it's a really good story, and it's also going to highlight our area too. So we're going to get a little bit of exposure on the big screen, hopefully. So anyway, I'll keep you posted on that when it comes up. And I've taken up enough of your time already. So unless you have any questions for me.
I don't.
Any questions? Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Others from the department heads or county elected officials? Seeing none, the next item on the agenda is the travel request consent agenda.
Anyone have anything to pull?
I don't.
I do not.
Do not either. So we'll look for a motion to approve the travel request consent agenda as presented.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Please call for the vote.
Wood,
Yes.
Crockett.
Yes.
Hutchin,
Yes.
Henry.
Yes.
Is there any emergency business? Seeing none, any legislative update? Seeing none. Item 20 here on the agenda is legislators, elected officials, and county department heads' comments, announcements, updates. Are there any that we haven't already heard?
Last day to vote.
Oh, and also thank you for, on the consent agenda, for the support of the NMC priorities. That's awesome.
So that takes us to the county manager's comments. In subsequent agendas, we'll leave item 20 there in case there are other elected officials outside of the county or legislators that come to provide comment, but we'll use item 16 for updates, much like the sheriff did and Brian and Warden, so that there's the opportunity for interaction. So we'll just make that adjustment in subsequent agendas. Just real briefly, I got a notice from the United States Air Force that they had completed a draft environmental impact statement on the airspace adjustments that they're proposing. Looks like from the nods around the dais that others are aware of that. I don't know that the county has any position or opinion about it. I know at one point over a year ago the mayor was concerned about it relative to the airport, but just an FYI there. I think the public comment period is open and there'll be some public hearings announced in that. I'm working on developing some material to help provide data and information about the industry boom in our county and the communities, and then the boon with an N that this activity generates, and then try to highlight the cost of the boom in terms of services and infrastructure for communities and counties, and then the benefits of the boon to the state and other entities. So, you have to enunciate, so it might be a challenge for a couple of the commissioners. I'm not saying which districts are involved there, but boom and boon are important things, and I think it's really about education, right? Education about what's occurring and the cost of that impact relative to the benefits that are being realized for that impact. So working on that material, the intent is to have it that we can begin to share. And along those lines, had a call from Lee County, and there's an opportunity for Eddy and Lee County leaders to participate in a dinner hosted by the Albuquerque Journal first part of February to provide some of that education and some discussion. And so I'm just planting that seed now to see if that's something that folks would be interested in or willing to participate, developing the messages again in an effort to try and provide more education. I know the Journal has a certain style and flair and reporting vein, but this seemed to be an opportunity to provide some of that education without some of those biases and just listen. We've seen several articles that have come from wide and varied sources, from the New York Times to Reuters, and then the Santa Fe New Mexican, who have provided some of that information in an educational format. They all have their little flares, but the more we tell our story, the more information we disseminate, the better we are able to communicate that in the right vein and the right venue. So just be aware of that. And so we'll talk more about it as things come together. And we're working on getting an outline and a framework and things like that we can share. So that's thank Commissioner McCutcheon and Commissioner Wood for joining us with the meeting we had with Chevron last week. The feedback I received from the meeting, it was very positive, very open. We realized that others had some conflicts and weren't able to make it, and they understood that. I explained that to them. So we talked about, what does being a partner mean? How do you partner? What does that look like? And so we talked about some avenues and some opportunities, and there'll be some subsequent meetings, and we'll look to do that with other operators as well. Again, trying to get out in front of activity, find opportunities where they can help support some of the work that we're trying to doing in different forms and fashions, because they have a net benefit involved too, with trying to help them see the value proposition that's available here. And I think for the most part, those operators are willing to do so if we can provide them a forum or a format to do it. So that's what we're working on. And with that, I'll hush up. And the next item is County Commissioners' comments.
It's been a very busy couple of weeks. On the 17th, Jason Burns and Wes and myself attended the NMDOT Transportation Commissioner meeting in JAL. It was a really good meeting. It's so nice to hear the transportation commissioners talking about sending more money down to Eddy and Lee County, and then just the great response that we got from all of the commissioners that were there. It was an excellent meeting. Again, lots of money's headed this way, and it looks like the potential of more coming this way in the next legislative session. There were several of our legislators there, which was nice to see as well. So that was a good meeting. The Albertsons ribbon cutting, that went great. If you guys haven't been to the new Albertsons, you're really missing out. It's a great addition to Carlsbad, and I can't say enough what adding 20,000 square feet did to that store, and their little convenience care that they have in there that Presbyterian put in is really busy from my understanding. So just great to see that addition to Carlsbad. We also had a Brinewell Authority meeting 2 Fridays ago. I want to thank Steve and Jerry. We had a tour after the meeting, and they were able to go, and it was just a really good meeting. We will not have another meeting until probably February after the legislative session, but it was nice having all of the secretaries here and the representation from the governor's office as well. Had an ALEA meeting in Hobbs. That went well. Things are still kind of plugging away on there. We did hire for a 6-month period Gary King to help us with some lobbying efforts in DC and in Santa Fe. So that was approved. Then the mayor, we met on Saturday the 26th. He has reenacted the mayor's healthcare task force, and so we met again, and all of the, our Mr. County Manager was there, all of the large companies were represented, WIP, NWP, the county, the city, Mosaic, and Intrepid. And so we're just basically talking about the healthcare needs of the community, talking about the little urgent cares that are opening up all over the place, and just kind of what's going on with healthcare as our population increases here in Eddy County. And we're going to be meeting again in a couple of weeks. And I think that's it. We've had a couple of lunches with the mayor. He's very impressed with just the way things are going between the city and the county, and all the partnerships and all of the funding that's coming this way for roads. And if you guys haven't been able to thank any of the city councilors here in Carlsbad, as you can see, the city has put a large chunk of money into the roads here in Carlsbad, and it's really paying off and showing. And I know that they're looking at soon maybe even doing a budget adjustment to get it into this fiscal year, redoing Church Street. But there's a lot happening in Carlsbad with the roads, and I think that that's a great thing as well, and a lot of partnerships with the city and the county. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Just a couple of short things referring to the meeting that Mr. County Manager had set up. I really do appreciate him facilitating that and getting the ball rolling there, and forming partnerships with some of the larger corporations around town. Chevron presented a really interesting chart to us. They had first it was a 3-line chart, I guess, if we're looking at it that way. We had sloped lines that went kind of diagonal on the chart, and this was to indicate, the first line was to indicate where they thought production would be. Then they had another line that was above that line, and that indicated after a few wells got online and a few things like that, it indicated an increase in production. And then there was actually a third line, and it showed actual production on there. So instead of Chevron coming in and estimating that they would produce so many X millions of barrels a day, and then having to adjust their estimate down, their estimate for the barrels produced in Eddy and Lee County in the Delaware Basin actually had increased, and that's really unheard of. And we got a good explanation from Al on that, and described what unprecedented estimating, I guess, that was for the industry. So when wells come online, you know, everybody's always bullish. This is the greatest, biggest thing ever. And everybody came into Carlsbad saying, hey, this is the greatest, biggest thing ever. We think it's going to be here. Actually, it's higher, and actually it's even higher than we thought there. So it's really good to get that information and to glean that information from the industry. And I take that as we see the commitment to our area that they have. We see the natural resource that we're sitting on top of that's just in its infancy, really, and being developed, and I'm looking forward to the future development and the future prospects that holds for our area. So appreciate Mr. County Manager getting that taken care of and facilitating those relationships going forward. I think that's kind of what we got. I really do like this where we can have interactive conversation. I think that was really good move there. So I like being able to talk to the directors. You know, I always want to ask the sheriff something, and I never can. So keep me out of jail here. So, well, I'm trying to go to jail, but it's for different reasons, I guess, now. But anyways, so I really like having the interactive deal. I really hope we can continue that and visit and get these things before the commission.
I also found the Chevron meeting interesting. And, you know, when you think of Chevron and their association with the county, it's roads. But I didn't know that they were involved in donating money big time to the schools here, domestic violence centers, just about anything that is a nonprofit they're involved in. And I didn't realize that. It was interesting to hear all of those comments on that. The only other thing, US 82 West is still under construction. Still a lot of grumbling about it, coming down on
road this morning on the radio. Got a little bit critical about the way they're proceeding out there. Of course, they were asking for people to call in predictions. I wanted to suggest they call the sheriff, and he could probably give them a timeline on that. But anyway, I've talked to the manager out there. He says by midsummer of next year, it will be done. And when you travel that road, sometimes there's workers out there, sometimes there's not. So I would think you'd have to work at a thing full time to get it done, but it doesn't seem to be happening. But it's going to be a good road when it's done.
Eventually.
Yeah.
That's all you need?
That's it.
I'll keep mine real quick. It's been a crazy busy couple weeks. Trying to be in 2 or 3 places at once. So for those that have called to ask me to be somewhere, and if I didn't get back to you, I'm sorry. I was probably somewhere else doing something else. So I don't know what it is about the last couple weeks, but it feels like we're everywhere at one time. So it's a good problem, but I do apologize to those that needed me for something else and I didn't get there. On the Air Force MOU, I'm glad to see that come back. We worked really hard on that. Well, has it been a year? It seems like a little more than a year, but I mean, we've gone all the way to, we took a group to Washington to talk to the Air Force about it. It's a really big deal that kind of impacts both of our airports. A lot of the private citizens are real concerned about it. You know, and as our mayor points out on a regular basis with the noise from the Air Force, we're really, really concerned about the prairie chickens, and we want to continue to worry about that. So I think he does a good job of pointing that out, and I will as well, because those jets are very loud. So we want to make sure that those poor things are safe. I had a couple other quick ones. Oh, one thing, I know he's going to be really excited. We haven't seen him in a while. And he wants everyone to know how it was his birthday recently, as much as I will let y'all never know it's my birthday. But on your way out, please let Ronnie Bear know happy birthday. It was last week, but he did have a birthday last week. Glad to see him here today. I've missed him. It's good to see him. Glad he's back up here. Man, I had some other stuff. I wanted to give a shout out to my daughters on the cross country team. They did qualify for state, so we're going to get to go to Albuquerque this week to watch them run in state again. It's the second time that team's qualified, so good for them. And of course, Carlsbad and Artesia both are in the playoffs, so I don't know, does Carlsbad have to travel?
Las Cruces.
I know our boys are traveling, so you know, keep them in your prayers. Make sure everyone gets safe, has safe games, and hopefully Eddy County shows well on both of those games. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. And that's about it. I mean, if y'all have any questions about,
No Spartan update?
I survived. That was a lot of fun. So yeah, if y'all want to run a Spartan, they're a great time. Highly recommend them, but they are what they are. So, you know, when you get through, you realize what it was. So, but it was fun. But yeah, any other questions that y'all have for me if I missed something or was at a meeting that y'all are curious about, please catch up with me. But there's been plenty of them. Other than that, I just really appreciate everyone out there, because the amount of compliments that we're getting, I don't think y'all can understand how great it is. I know my wife is like, well, it's just like 10, 15 people. I'm like, yeah, but, you know, for 10 or 15, for a gentleman to come in here to spend his morning to thank the county for the things they've done, I mean, that speaks volumes for where we're headed. And I'm really excited about that. And I'd like to keep that momentum. I really, really love the momentum we're making with the cities. That's how we function. You know, that's how we've always said we need to function, is if we work together, we can pull off some amazing things. And I think we're seeing that. So thank y'all so much for doing that. Please keep that up, because it makes life so much easier out there when you're walking through Walmart. Now they're just mad at the checker outer and not the checker outer and me. So, you know, when we're stuck in those lines, at least I'm not hearing how their road's bad or anything else, because we're actually catching up on that. So it's nice to have other conversations when we're checking out. So.
Thank you, Commissioners. The next item on the agenda is executive session.
Mr. Chairman, Chairman, I make a motion that we go into executive session in accordance with State of New Mexico Open Meetings Act, Section 10-15H-1, 2, and 7, which authorizes the Board of County Commissioners to go into executive session and discuss limited personnel matters and threaten or pending litigation.
Second.
We have motion and second. Please call for the vote.
Wood,
Yes.
Crockett.
Yes.
McCutcheon.
Yes.
Henry.
Yes.
To return.
Where we